says it's time to rock and roll.
Okay, dudes, let's walk this sucker.
All right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 50 of Into the Comiverse. And as always, I got Mike from Evil's Comics with me. How you doing, sir?
What's going on, Tony? Chad?
Just chilling. Another week done. Getting closer to that separation date.
A couple different dates, right? Grandfather date, a moving date.
Yeah, but I got to get through end of job day first. I think I've got 14 days. No, 16 days until everything ends. But
So basically like 2 weeks.
Yeah, something like that. I know it's the 3rd of February when the plant close. That's the official day we go and sign our severance packages and all that. But anyway, that's not what the show's about. We're going to go to the panel or the chat real quick. First off, if y'all want to hang out, show off some comics and stuff, there's the link pinned at the top. Y'all are welcome to hang out with us. We got Las Cruces saying hello from New Mexico. How you doing, sir? We got Legion of Comics saying howdy.
Hey, James. Hey, Mark.
And we got Las Cruces again saying, hey, Tony, and hello, Evil Mike. Oh, and we got KBDM. What's up, everyone?
What's up,
We got
KBDM?
Brian LCS. How you doing,
What's up, Brian?
sir? It's kind of hard to talk and belch at the same time.
Do it again. Do a redo.
No redos. We're live. Anything can happen.
Right.
It's going to be a slobber knocker.
Are we live?
Yeah. Are we? Oh, wait. I'm alive, but,
I'm alive.
sometimes I might feel dead inside, but, it's just life. So, I'm going to kick it over to Do It Live.
You're alive. Fuck it.
I'm going to take a minute, and we're going to do some community news, and then we'll get started. So first, let me play my cool little intro because I like doing stuff like that. Sometimes I forget to play that. First and foremost, I want to talk about my buddy Destry, a good friend of the community in Northeast Arkansas. One of his dreams finally came true. He got to open up his own toy and comics book store on 2801 East Highland in Jonesboro, Arkansas, called Must Love Toys and Comics. I'm going to show you some pictures of the store itself because he really went all out. I love the front of the store. That's pretty cool.
Me too.
And we got we got some pretty cool wall of slab comics. Yeah, they selling comics. They're selling. Man, I swear to God, dude, I walked in there and just the Transformers section alone, I bet I could probably spend $5,000. He's got everything from the new stuff to the Generation 1 stuff. I mean, he really went all out making this, this is something he's been wanting to do for a long time. And I'm willing to bet that I think he does a lot of carpentry work, so I bet he built the shelves himself. Look at that Funko collection. If you like Funkos. This would be one of those stores I said Scott Vaughn would love it. He would go absolutely crazy.
There's a couple different things I love about the store. For one, on the outside, it's very eye appealing. It's eye catching. The inside of the store looks like, it's been a store for like 5 years at least. So it's awesome to see that it's a brand new store. Because not only is it like fully stocked, but there's a decent selection. You're looking at the wall slab. There's actually signed books up there. Most places usually only have like regular slabs, stuff like that.
I took advantage of the $2 sale. I'll be showing this later.
Gosh, that was stacked.
And I want to say hi to JSS Brooklyn. How you doing?
What's up, JSS?
And yeah, and also I forgot to mention it, but at the end of the show, I got a nice little stack of books. I'm gonna do a little short giveaway. I'll show those later on at the end of the show. Which reminds me, I need to load up that giveaway tool before I forget. Let's see here. Anyway, here we go. Oh, and so the next thing I want to talk about, I don't have any pictures or anything, and maybe between now and February 1st, but maybe I can get Brian to hop on the show and talk about it a little bit. But Brian LCS, our community godfather, is starting a Kickstarter soon for issue 2 of The Doctor. That's going to be pretty cool.
Excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already ready to hop on it, and I've got to remember between now and when the book comes out, once I get to Indiana, to send him my new address, so I don't forget.
Well, I think when you do the Kickstarter, it's not physically him. You do it all through Kickstarter. So when you set up your Kickstarter account, if you haven't already done that, make sure you have the right address or go and edit it.
Yeah, but me for being forgetful about things, I have to make sure I remember to change that address. How you doing, Ken?
It's important. What's up, Kenny? No, I'm excited for The Doctor. Have you not read The Doctor?
Oh yeah, I read the first issue, dude. I'm ready.
Okay. Just making sure.
I got the package. I got three very beautiful covers of the first issue. It's pretty cool. How you doing, Shop?
What's up, Shop?
Yeah. Like I said, I got a little stack of comics I'm gonna give away at the end of the show, and I'll come up with a hashtag and figure out how to put the giveaway tool on there because I don't do it that often. I'll have to figure it out, but we'll get it done. We'll get it done. And the last thing I want to talk about as far as community news goes, this was something that my LCS owner, Brandon, from Bonesy Jonesy's Comics, he actually put this on his Facebook group. And before I pose the question, how you doing, Tim?
Hey, Tim.
My soon-to-be neighbor from Indiana, my brother from another mother. He posted on his Facebook group, his personal Facebook group a while back, and I made a comment, and I said, this would make a great topic for a live show. And then while I'll give Mike a chance to talk, and while he's doing that, I'm going to bring up my original Facebook post. I'm going to read to y'all what I wrote him, and y'all can tell me whether or not y'all agree with what I said or whatever. But the topic is, in today's comic industry, what can we or comic book shops do to attract the younger audiences, the kids, to get them into collecting comics? So, Mike, what do you think? And feel free to answer in the chat, and I'll highlight some of your answers as well. Your responses.
So I got a couple different responses because it's how can we get kids, to read, but get them to go to the shops and read. So first and foremost, it's probably one of or a big complaint that's out there, but I don't think it's really focused on, but shop maintenance. I don't know how many shops I go to, and it's just disconcerting, either like how disorganized the shop is, or like nothing has prices, or stuff like that. As a new customer, especially a kid, a teenager, something like that, you want that impression. You're talking about most of the shops that I shopped at that age, and I'm pretty sure all of us were like that due to not being able to drive and mass travel. We were forced to go to these certain shops. Store maintenance, I think, from a store operator is first and foremost, and that's just overall trying to get anybody in there. Second off, keep in mind pop culture events as far as movies, TV shows, stuff like that. I think a shop owner should have books highlighted related to movies or TV shows that are on the shelves at that time, vice versa. I mean, what's out right now? We got a Star Wars show. So, I mean, when you walk into the shop, there should be some Star Wars somewhere. Not because Star Wars is just a huge franchise, but yeah, I mean, and maybe that's a bad example, but pick a Marvel character that's currently featured right now. I mean, we have the Thunderbolts coming, we have some Falcon, Winter Soldier stuff coming. Hey Wilbur, um, I love going in a shop and they have like either I forget what they call them, but a store pick selection or the employee pick, and it could be related to like that week's comics, or I mean, but it should be like, I mean, adjacent to what's out there pop culture wise, have merchandise on the shelves related to what's in the world currently. I would say that because that could be a big thing. Say a kid's into Spider-Man, they head into a shop and then there's nothing Spider-Man there, and I would say most of us are, generally speaking, nerds are kind of non-social creatures to begin with. So you're the trying to get them to avoid asking for help in a shop is the ultimate, goal. Like having everything foremost, eye view, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, but it's hard to like mess up a shop. I can remember like as a kid frequenting like at least 5 or 6 different shops, and none of them were like awkward or hard to manage as a teenager. I think the biggest thing is incorporation reading with kids. Yeah, I think there's a big like stigmata with the idea of reading at home kind of thing, and it needs to be present, not just the concept known people read in the world. No, I think they physically need to see people read around them. I can remember going back to what got me into reading, and it's really hard to say what got me into reading. I think it's like an intelligence level. Um, and I'm not saying you got to be like super smart to read. No, no, no. I think I was just inquisitive and curious and, stuff like that attached to it. But I can remember my mom reading like a shit ton, and that got me curious. Like, what was she spending all this time with? Like, I wanted to know what she was reading and stuff like that. I can remember finding out what she was reading and about, and that wasn't so impressive. Um, but the curiosity was still there, and seeing people around me read caught me. I'd say got me into it. I'd say the same thing with my kids because both my older kids they weren't like both readers of comics. My daughter was, but both were readers of novels and other stuff.
Yeah, I was just going over a couple of comments. KBDM said shops should push more trades and graphic novels. Okay.
I would agree too because I have that dilemma today. Like I'm literally trying to read X-Men like through its complete timeline. The problem is there's all these offshoots and spin-offs, and sometimes the books tell you where to go and sometimes they don't. I mean, John even put out that X-Men reading format in omnibus form, and it's still, technically hard in that format. Omnibus is supposed to be like a collected form. You just buy it and read it. I mean, some of these long-term books that have been going for a long time, I mean, that they have kind of convoluted reading, orders.
Yeah.
So anything to make that easier, and like you said, trades and omnibuses, having those on stock, I could say that because I mean, it even though I love floppies, I still will check the trade section looking for complete stories, stuff like that. I think it depends on the individual and what type of collector the kid's going to be, because even with us, we have different types of collectors. We have people that collect for the story, the art, the number one, the dollar that's attached to the book, the key that it is. I mean, I'd say there's several, maybe like 10 different types of collect, and I'm pretty sure I'm missing a few, but that's so I think like narrowing down the fascination that what fascination the kid has as far as superheroes and stuff like that. And it's a like ask yourself what got you into superheroes. What was it? The TV, was it cartoons of that era? Was it was it parents? Was it friends and family? Was it the trading cards? I'm pretty sure we all have different avenues. I don't know if I can exactly track mine down. I think superheroes have always been there since I can remember. Like the appeal and like for superhero. I think
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm gonna read. JSS Brooklyn's got some good points. He said, "Hold monthly giveaway events, not annually, of free comic book day quality books with a variety of things like gaming in tandem with TV and movies." As Mike said, then he also said, "It's also a parent's responsibility to pass it on." That is, I agree, in a respectful and responsible way to their kids without forcing it. Yeah, Mac was trying to get my daughter to read more. Um, wife was trying to do, and she'll probably get mad that I'm saying this, but she tried to do mandatory reading times and stuff. And I was like, I got her to like, I, I found out she liked My Little Pony. So I started buying her My Little Pony comics and started buying her comic books that she liked. And she was reading the comics, but she was reading. And then after a little bit of time, that developed into her wanting to read other stuff. And then she branched out and started reading everything. So, I mean, so it
I
kind
can
of burnt.
say I can say as a parent, I love gimmicks and I love attempting to try to, to apply gimmicks to get kids to, for good reasons, trying to get your kids to read, trying to get them to be more active, trying to get them to eat healthier. I can get behind, parents trying different things to achieve okay. So as far as like, and I can say this from experience, everything that I can remember being forced upon, and this applies with music, movies, reading, anything that I was brought upon that was forced upon me, I hated it with a
Yeah.
passion.
Yeah.
And okay, it's funny because in real life, those things were good. They were things that merited the forcement that no, but it was all about the way they were doing it. I specifically thinking I can go back to country music, and it was really forced on me as a kid, and it was just the more it was forced on me, the more I couldn't stand it, kind of thing. And it's funny because growing up as an adult, I can appreciate it now, but I
Yeah.
still have that animosity because it was forced on me, kind of thing.
JSS Brooklyn also says that when my girls went to summer camp, I sent them a box of comic books every week. They became very popular. No phones or internet. Go figure. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Brian said, I like shops that have spots to sit and read. Yeah, I agree. If a kid walks into a shop for the first time, tell me, grab a few books from the dollar bin for free. And we got JSS agreeing it. And he said, good grades equals free comic. That is true.
I've had a lot of shops that do that program. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Piano went right out the window. I can tell you, like, when I mean, most of my passions and everything were brought upon by myself, like introduced by way different mediums. But the things that I got curious upon, like as far as reading or science, or they were curiosities that I followed, and I don't think anybody could have pushed me or shoved me. If anything, assisted me. But I mean, and that's where I think a lot of people just go wrong with trying, like specifically talking about trying to get kids to read. I don't think there's a wrong or right way. I would say, but you could definitely like push them away from it, kind of thing. Especially depending on what you're trying to get kids to read. I remember my dad was trying to get me to read heavy history books when I was growing up, and I'm a history fan today, but as a young kid, it was not something I wanted to read about. Like, I mean, you're talking about, well, I'll give you the choices. You could read about superheroes or, medieval fantasy, or you can read about Abraham's wooden teeth, or, I was like, I might go with the fantasy.
Yeah. Like for me, growing up when I was reading, of course, at a very young age, I discovered horror movies. I mean, I watched the first Halloween movie when I was 8 years old. So, I mean, so I got fascinated with vampires. I read Bram Stoker's Dracula when I was 9. And as far as the cartoon element or comics element, I grew up in the 80s. I watched Spidey and His Amazing Friends. I watched the Super Friends. I watched Transformers. I watched all that. And when I found out they had comic books for them, I bought a book here or there. I wasn't actually collecting until 87 when I seen that Cat 333 and started buying them. And I've been there ever since. And like you said, stuff being forced on you. if people said, "Hey, Tony, I recommend this," I'd be like, "Cool." And then if people said just really badgered me, I would ignore it. I went, oh hell, dude, it was 96, 95 before I read my first Driss novel. But for like 6 years, I had people going, "You absolutely need to read this," and I was like, "Oh, the hell with y'all, I ain't reading this shit." And then I got into D and wanted to learn and discovered Driss New Erden and wanted to read the stuff. And now I'm hooked on them. We got JSS Brooklyn's at D&D got me as in math and history.
Got him A's in math and history. Yeah, the board game.
I'll tell y'all a story about me reading Dracula. So when I was in the 10th or 11th grade, I asked my teacher for a book report if I could read Dracula. And she went, "Okay." I'd already read that book like I don't know how many times since I was 9 years old. So all I really had to do was go back and do the cliff notes, and then I freaking wrote down this thing. I sucked at English, but when I got to the book report, I made a 94. And she said, "Tony, that's one of the best book reports you ever did." They said, "When's the first time you read this book?" And I said, "When I was 9 years old." And she went, "You could understand it?" And I went, "Yeah." Wasn't that hard?
And by that time, you knew the source,
Yeah.
No, I mean, I have a similar story with me. I started reading very young, but like I can remember like 8 years old was when I started reading adult novels. My stories were like I got expelled for reading certain books at school, and it was Stephen King. Like I had to sit a week out of school, and it was just because I was reading like Pet Sematary. No,
they didn't like Stephen King in the library in the 80s.
a lot of like Clive Barker, they weren't fans of any of the horror stuff, especially, I mean, and I want to say, I mean, we're talking elementary and middle school, or, depending on how your schools are set up, but I was young, but I mean, my whole thing was, and my parents went the right way about it, like they would fight the teachers about it, and they were like, well, what would you, you're going to restrict this kid from reading a book because you think it's this and that, but like you're restricting a kid from reading kind of thing. If you really.
Says Mike, it really did. My father gave me the basic set back in the day, OG Red Dragon, and I was hooked. And yes, it was a problem at a Catholic school. Wow. I can imagine.
See, it's funny because so I have the different experience where my parents were the OG versions of us before this. Yeah. Like I would say my parents didn't do action figures and toys on the wall, but when, I can remember when I was like 4, my father showing me his pride and joy, and it was his original G.I. Joe collection, and I'm talking about the Barbie size G.I. Joes. And then he had then after I started getting the comics, he showed me his prized comic book collection, and it was a lot of like old Western. I mean, we're talking about, Golden Age, Western and horror, sci-fi books, stuff like that, and a bunch of books that came out at that time. I mean, but I grew up into like a board game family. Ever since we can remember, and me and my brother were trying to track this down, but like we think D&D is always was there. Like even as a toddler, we can remember our parents playing D&D, but like I grew up on both sides because my parents eventually got divorced. My dad's side was more the board game family. My mom did the whole like, oh, it's satanic, and so I had both sides of the spectrum where like, I mean, I actually played it and saw people that played it and went to conventions of people playing it and saw that it wasn't, but I went through that whole like 80s thing where it was like, oh, it's satanic, you can't do it,
That's cool. Brian says his dad loved to read newspapers, books. He read comics as a kid, just never collected them. That's pretty cool.
I did that too with the newspaper strips. I used to read Spider-Man. That was. Okay.
My wife chimed in. She said, "I always loved to read. I also read Dracula when I was 9 or 10. I read all kinds of books. I really got into Stephen King in my teens, though." Yeah, my wife loves to read. Both of us are heavy readers.
For me, I think it was always there, and it's like I have that other side of the spectrum with my brother. It was never there with him. He read the required like books that he had to in school. That was it. And you're talking about like he has a love of superheroes and stuff, but as far as reading the comics, he has no want or appeal. Even though he knows that's where the source material comes from, he's
Yeah.
perfectly fine with somebody telling him the stories versus like, and that's why he's more a fan of like, the MCU and stuff like that, the movies.
Yeah. Like one of the things my wife pointed out, like last week when we did the Lord of the Rings show, like me, I read The Hobbit and The Fellowship because I wanted to. But they were required in their class to read The Hobbit. So I mean, a lot of schools required you to read either The Hobbit or The Fellowship of the Ring. Was you one of
Mine,
those?
yep, mine required both, and I opted out of both. Okay, so there's a weird thing. My family was heavy into fantasy stuff, D&D, and for some reason, my parents did not want me to partake in any Tolkien. I knew about it growing up, and we knew about the movies, but my parents never like opted to rent them or show them for us. And same thing with the books. I to this day I don't even know my parents have read any Tolkien, which is odd because I know my dad's read like a ton of other like fantasy stuff. I can't tell you the reason on why there was this massive hole because I wasn't introduced to Lords of the Rings and everything until that first movie. That was. I mean, I had seen it. I knew kind of the basis of the story and stuff. But I mean, you're talking about like that. I was just in this massive Lords of the Rings like Hobbit void kind of thing.
Let me put this up. So Wellmore says my dad reads a lot too. He used to finish a novel in a day. That's cool. He'll be 79 tomorrow. Happy birthday to Wellmore's dad. Early
Yeah,
birthday.
birthday Will
Well,
Wilson.
let me read this to you. This is my response to my buddy Brandon's when he made the post. It is a little bit long winded, and when I get done, you can tell me if you agree or disagree with anything I said. Because when you're making a post, you just write what you're thinking. And when you get done, I was like, damn, I didn't realize I wrote a post that big. Uh, it says this is a good topic that I should probably do on a live show in the future. I don't know if my opinions are going to be on point, but I'll try. Reading and collecting comics have changed drastically from the time I was 13 to today. When I was a kid, availability of comics was more attainable. We had comics in shops, grocery stores, drugstores, etc., where a kid could easily look at them on the racks while mom and dad were doing their grocery shopping. They were a lot more affordable back then as well. I could spend my allowance back in the day and get a stack, whereas now $20 may get you 4 or 5 depending on the price. Kids today's like my daughters are more into anime and manga because they can not only get them at a somewhat affordable price, but most of the times they can get self-contained stories. I agree that the comic companies should cater more to the younger demographic, but the reality is that the people I see at the shops mostly are my age, people that have been in the hobby for 30 plus years. Now that we can, now what we do to get the younger audience to want to read comics? I'm not really sure. I know in the past the two big companies had comics geared for younger audiences, but if the books are not selling, then they get canceled. As I approach the young age of 52, I've already acknowledged the point that will come where comics are no longer made for my age demographic, and I'm fine with that. I'm no longer the future. If we want the hobby to survive, the publishing companies just need to figure out what excites kids today and figure out how they can make comics that cater to these needs. We also need to teach the children to buy what they enjoy reading and to not get into the hobby for investment opportunities. I'm not sure if I made any sense, but this is just my opinion. That's what I wrote.
I actually like a lot of that, and you made a point that I forgot to make, but availability is a major thing. You're talking about when we were growing up. I mean, they had books at convenience stores, at grocery stores, at bookstores, at comic book store. Um,
Hey, Greg,
now
hang
you
on.
now you can only get comics either one or two places, either comic book store or online.
I got to point out that Greg messaged me a few days ago, and he just sent a shipment to either CGC or CBCS of some of his prized books, and we're talking about bangers, like 252, ASM 252, 238, 316, and some of them were Mark Jewelers. So Congratulations on that, Greg. I hope to see some great grades come back from that because he cleans and presses his own books. And Marvel Rivals so goes. Yeah, my on Free Comic Book Day for the last few years, I always bought books for my nephew and my nieces. Now, whether or not my nieces read them or not, I don't know. But I did notice that when my brother passed away and was going through his house, I found a lot of my books that I got my nephew just on the floor trashed. So I don't know if he ever read them or not. Probably not.
Most everybody I've ever given books to, they either like wind up in the trash or they do read them and they're just not, they're heavily read. They're not really like protected. I mean, because I don't. That's another thing. I don't think it's a lot to explain. I mean, it's not a lot, but there is an explanation that goes into collecting comics. And I think it takes a meticulous person to want to collect comics, kind of thing.
My wife said I was the kid in class that actually read the assigned books. There was always a few guys that wanted to tell them what the latest chapter was about before class. Oh, and then
Oh,
he said 252, 265, and 316 were Mark Jewelers, CGC bound.
was that Spider Man?
Yeah, yeah. Of course, 252 is the first black suit. 265 is, I believe, that's the first appearance of Silver Sable, and maybe Black Fox. I think I always forget what issue Black Fox first appeared in, but it may be both. And 316 is the first cover appearance of Venom, I believe.
I don't remember numbers like that. Okay, so going back to your wife's comment,
Yeah.
I was that kid that enjoyed reading the list that they gave us. Like I was the kid that like I wasn't a big fan of English class, but like I enjoyed the reading part of it. But I've always been a fan of lists, and that's probably why they were already suggested classics. And the way my schools did it wasn't like they just forced us to read one. There might have been like a few grades in the beginning that did that, but I want to say as it got into like middle school and high school years, we had like a selection. And like I said, like Lords of the Rings and Hobbit was one of those books I could have selected, but I chose like, because I can remember what I chose instead of Lords of the Rings. I went, because it was either Fellowship or it was Lord of the Flies or Animal House, and I went Lord of the Flies. And to this day, that's still one of my favorite books. Um, and I think that was the book I needed to read at that time for many different reasons. Like, and it hit home for me. So, I mean, I was a Boy Scout going into like Eagle Scouts. Like, I mean, you're talking about that book was like the right. So I don't like. I want to say I enjoyed both. You know, like I think certain books are supposed to be read at certain times in your life because if not, they don't hit right, kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe like Fate, I think they just appear.
So, what were some of your favorite books growing up?
Um, to date, it's still one of my favorite books, and it's one of the only books that's ever scared me. And this is going to surprise you because it is not a horror book. Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park. You,
I've
you
always,
talk about
I was going to
you
say, I've
talk
always
about
heard the book is different.
Yeah, you talk about, well, it's not. Okay, so in the beginning it was. Now with the other movies, if you watch Jurassic Park 1 and The Lost World, it's kind of those two movies meshed into, they kind of took, um, no, I want to say different characters have different endings. Like Muldoon, he survives in the book, which he was one of my favorite characters. And in the movie, they don't necessarily kill him off. It looks like he dies, but it was the same thing in the book where he managed to get out of that situation, and the movie just kind of cut it off. And no, but I want to say that, and it's specifically a T-Rex scene, and they did not include this in any of the Jurassic Park movies, which sucks. But it was a freaking scary, like the whole setup of the scene. I, I can remember being like 11 or 12 or whatever, whatever. If you look up the year that book was released, that was how old I was. So if it was like 92, I was 12. But like, I can remember reading that book, and I literally had to put it down because it was freaking me out that much and stuff. I love How to Kill a Mockingbird. It was a good book.
I've never read To Kill a Mockingbird. I've always wanted to, but I have read Lord of the Flies.
Kill Mockingbird was good, and I think I want to say I don't approve of it being like a childhood must read or a young child. Yeah, I think it's a book that needs to be read as an adult kind of thing. I'm not. I've come across so many people that I don't even think understand the whole metaphor that's behind the whole book, kind of thing, because they read it at such an early age. Um, okay, so another book that I really love that's not really talked about. They did make a movie about it, but it's like it was a low budget '90s like kind of horror movie. But it's The Relic by
Yeah.
I think it's Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child or something like that. It's two authors, and they now it's a whole slew of like it's a series. But that original book, and I do love the movie. I will say that the book is way better, but it's just because it's not the greatest of movies. But I still think they did a good job with the movie. But the book was fantastic, and you talk about straight up horror and a different kind of horror. You know, I love the horror that was in the Relic. It was cool.
That's cool. JSS Brooklyn mentioned Catcher in the Rye, and I believe I read parts of that in literature, and my
I've
wife said
read
she
it.
had Lord of the Flies.
I've read Catcher in the Rye, and I can't remember any. There's a lot of like, for instance, like Charles Dickens. I've read like A Tale of Two Cities, and
Yeah.
I can only remember like vague bits and pieces of it. Like I've read The Great Gatsby like twice, and I can only remember like most of the ending kind of thing. I don't know why.
Hmm.
Um, no, but a lot
Yeah.
of my favorite
Huh?
reads is probably like in your wheelhouse because Salvatore and Star Wars, not D&D, but I was introduced with him in Star Wars and Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. But like that was a big part of my reading, like in my teens was a lot of those Star Wars, side books and stuff like that. Like because I usually latch onto a franchise, and once I latch onto a franchise, if they have other avenues, I tend to follow them. With Star Wars, they had the books.
I'm gonna take a minute to say hi to my mom. Hi, Tony and Evil Mike. Hey.
Hi, Mom.
Now I was gonna say for me, growing up, of course, I said I read Dracula when I was 9. Uh,
I,
I read, I read like the classics, Christmas Carol, Old Yeller, Where the Red Fern Grows. One of my favorites as a kid was Ricky Tikki Tavi, about the story about the little mongoose that had to fight the snakes.
I love Ricky Tikki. Bro, I
Yeah,
was watching the freaking Jungle Book, and I'm still mad that like they don't focus on the other parts of the freaking Jungle Book. Why do we only
yeah,
get that part? I love Ricky Tikki Tavi, that movie, and that. No, I love the whole Jungle Book period. Rudyard, he is a great author that not a lot of people like talk about enough. And I'm gonna say his name wrong, but
I said his name.
Rudyard Rudyard Kipling or
Oh yeah, yeah, Rudyard Clipping. Yeah, Kipping.
something
I
like
said it
it.
wrong. But I also read like back in the '80s, a thing common in the drugstores was the paperbacks for the movies and stuff because I read paperback for The Princess Bride. I read Gremlins. I read Batman. I read The Karate Kid, the first two novels of that. I read Friday the 13th Part 6 in a novel that I would love to go back and find it, but the cheapest copy that you can find online is $130 for this little paperback because it's so rare. I
Hmm.
mean, and then as I, when I got older and we got digital media, my Nook had where I could buy First Blood by John Morrell, the book based
Hmm.
on, you know, and
Yeah, Rambo.
yeah, I'd always been told the movie and the book are night and day. And then I finally got to read the book, and I was like, "Holy crap!" Because in the movie, he seriously maims but never actually kills anybody.
Hmm.
But hell, dude, he killed. I don't know how many people he killed within the first part of that damn book. I mean, it was like a bloodbath.
So I'm gonna paint a picture about books to movies or books to shows that a lot of people just don't think about. And I know you as a reader, you know this. Okay, so this book, we're about to talk about it tonight, right? But if you read this book in entirety, like hardback or softback or audio, it is a 40-hour book. Broken. That's how long and I am a fast reader. I'm not the fastest, but I am a fast reader. It's still around a 40-hour book. So the concept that we take a book like this and we turn it into a 2-hour movie, first off, is a masterpiece that they can shrink down all that information and have it similar to the books, you know. I used to be that guy as a kid where I was all like, why isn't the movie like a book? And then I grew up and I started realizing, I mean, that's like Harry Potter. You talk
Yeah,
about Harry Potter is about a 20, because they're younger novelizations. They're not full on adult books, but Harry Potter in itself, I'd say, is around 12 to 18 hours each book. 12 to 18 hours, okay, just the first book. So, and I want to say that the first book is a little smaller, so it might be like 10, I don't know, something like that. But you're talking about how close they got, from with that first movie, how close they physically got it to the book. And yes, they did leave out some things, but you're talking about they physically got it like super close.
yeah,
Um, I find that amazing, and honestly, like when you take that concept, like even breaking down these books, like how long it takes me to like do a Cliff Notes version of a full book, it still takes me hours to do it. I mean, like,
yeah,
um, no,
yeah.
but I can.
I know. Go ahead, man.
No, I was gonna say that, like, so any movie that I can, most movies that I can think of that get it close, I just have to applaud. Even my complaint with book to movie is when they lose the source or whatever. I can look at the Dark Tower movie, and like, I mean, I don't even know if they're trying to mimic the first book, the whole series. The That's my problem is like when you get a book to movie and like you can't even tell what parts of the book they made. That's my issue.
Yeah, I was going to point out for a second. My wife said she thinks I think Catching the Rye was seventh grade English along with The Hobbit. JSS Brooklyn said Miss Northcutt, your son runs a wonderful show for the community. Thank you, JSS Brooklyn.
It does.
You mentioned Harry Potter. I'm going to tell you a story. So I didn't actually start reading the Harry Potter novels. I tried to read the first one. I bought every one of them for my oldest daughter when they came out. So I tried to read the first one to come out. I went, this is too kiddie. So I put it down. But she, every time I got one, she read every one of them. When the sixth novel, The Half Blood Prince, had just come out, I would go in and watch it. I'm taking her to watch every movie when it comes out to the theaters. And there was a point where I decided to go ahead and read them. But when I started reading them, then I could imagine the voices of all the actors, in the books and everything. And it read more fluidly. And I was able to get all six books read in 1 month. So, I mean, and we all know how long the Order of the Phoenix is and the Half Blood Prince, because one of my favorite things is when we went to go see the Goblet of Fire. I took my daughter, I took my niece. My niece fell in love with Cedric Diggory because she thought Robert Pattinson was just freaking hot, and she went, "Uncle Tony, tell me he's not going to die." And I went, honey, you're going to have a bad time." So I mean,
I have a similar story with Harry Potter because I was around like 18 when it first was a book and was hitting the stores and stuff. And I am a fan of that, wizards and fantasy and stuff. I can remember hearing about it, and it was kind of that situation where I love word of mouth. I love lists, but there's a different kind of thing where it's like where the whole world starts projecting that, and that is when I back away from that. And at that time, like everybody I knew was like, "Oh, you got to read Harry Potter. You got to read Harry Potter." So honestly, I stayed away. It wasn't until it hit paperback, like I want to say a year later or something. And one of my really good friends, like I think at the time, all I was doing was playing Pokemon on my Game Boy or something like that. And he was like, I think I was like hundreds of hours into that game, and he was like, I mean, I just read this. You want this book? And he left it as he walked out of my house, kind of thing. And like as he was leaving, he was saying something about like, if you look at the pictures, it's got like mysteries or something. And I think that's all it took was like that there was like deeper mysteries within the pages, and I was like, but it's a kid's book. And I can remember, like, I read the back cover after he had left, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I will say that I fell in love with it from the instant, even though it was very kiddie. Especially the first three, like due to their age and stuff like that. I mean, you're talking about he's what 10, turning 11, the first book, um, or is it 11 turning 12? I forget what it is. But no, I've like I was kind of upset that I was late to the Harry Potter party because as soon as I read the first book, and I had to wait like all the because it was still like I think she took like 3 years before she released the second book or something like that. So I want to say every single book I had to wait like until she dropped the next book, and I can say each one of them was agony. But I could say after we got the first movie, it helped with the books a lot because we got the soundtrack, and I used that soundtrack for like every book reading. I would like as we got more movies, I would add like because I think we got four movies by the time like she finished the last book or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah. Jazz S. Brooklyn says The Eagle of the Night by Sutcliffe, a great film called The Eagle. It's a very tough read, but excellent. It's like Proust. My wife said that she is always disappointed when they make a long book into a movie. There are so many things that get cut out. Yeah.
That's
And
why
then,
I prefer, if they're going to do a book, I prefer TV show because it's long format. You got episodes, you can break it down in seasons. I mean, that's why I'm loving Shogun, because they're slow boating that. Um,
says, plowing through Ford Maddox Ford makes Hemingway look like grade school stuff. Okay.
I know both, but there's certain authors that I'm just not interested in. That's like Hemingway. I can say I've read some Hemingway, but as far as him being interesting for me, it's not like and it's just what he writes about. I could say there's several authors like Tom Clancy, and I know he's a huge author and stuff like that, but all like pretty much it's political like war game stuff and not in the political stuff. I don't hate on the author. I don't hate on you know. I mean, that's like I could think of like people within the horror realm. And I know I've pretty much read every horror writer that you can think of, at least one of their books.
Yeah.
But then people will sit there and hate on like Dean Koontz, call him like a lesser Stephen King. Like, bro,
Yeah.
some of my favorite books are by Dean Koontz. I mean, he might not. I mean, I think that's like every writer, and you're talking about Dean Koontz has a library that's almost equal to Stephen King, and they're gigantic. You're talking about 80 something books these people have written. I'm not every one of their books is going to be a banger or is going to talk to you kind of thing. Expect that's like Stephen King. I mean, I love Stephen King. I can't think of a book that I've come across that I didn't like, but I can say there's some that I haven't read yet, and for reasons like this that where he's picked topics that I'm just not a fan of. Like Pet Cemetery is one of those. I am a zombie guy, but I don't know. There's something that's just not scary with zombie pets. I mean, but there's certain stories. It's like you hear a synopsis, and for me, it's just like, I find it either, it's just not for me, or I don't hate on it, but um, no, but that's like a with Dean Koontz, man. I love his brother, his Odd Thomas series.
Hmm.
Um, even the movie was really good. I was kind of disappointed we never got sequels to that movie. Um, yeah, but Twilight Eyes, man, that's one of my favorite books that Dean Koontz wrote. But there's that's like people hate on the Twilight, the series in general because of the sparkly vampire. I could say I've read every single one of those movies. I saw the movies. I could say it wasn't like I was excited for the movies because they were good movies. And as far as him being sparkly, it didn't bother me because it was something different. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how many different versions of vampires are out there. There's a lot, and they're not all the same. I mean, they generally have like, but you're talking about, people love that movie 30 Days a Night, and it's a great film. But you're talking about that's a stretch away from vampire. I mean, you're talking about the whole like mouth opening thing from Blade, and I
Yep.
mean, that's not exactly my version. I would say those, people rag on Patterson and his whole sparkly vampire. I would say, first off, Patterson had nothing to do with that. Okay, that's the lady who wrote that book. Her name is like Stephanie Mercer or something like that. Blame her. Okay, he was an actor. And he was just, Oh, I love Peter Straub. Okay, R.I.P. Peter Straub. Um, no, but I mean, for me, the whole like other type of vampires, those are kind of the more comical and just way out there ideas. I can get behind the sparkly vampire thing. I mean, it kind of attaches to the whole sun thing.
Yeah.
So what? They look different. Just
Well, I can tell you, my wife, one of the things that she absolutely loved, and she read them 100 times, was all the Twilight novels and the Hunger Games. She absolutely loved them. She had to deal with my jokes, but that was just mostly because she's my wife. I got to pick on her. Uh,
okay. So I got a big complaint with Twilight and a big love for Twilight. I have read all the books, and I have, or the ones that we got, and I have watched all the movies. And I'm not one of those haters where I hated the bad writing that went into the movie and stuff like that. I mean, because it was another situation where they went faster than she was writing the book. The books weren't finished, so they kind of had to come up with an ending. Um, my whole thing with her, if you've read her book, and I dare any man, now this might be a great read for a lady, but I could tell you one thing that she couldn't do in that book is write men, because every man in that book comes off the same way. It's like she's never talked to a dude. And yes, we might have similar mentalities, but as far as every time a guy talks, they just no, no, no. It bothered the hell out of me. It was one of the first time I've come across a writer, and I really questioned at that time if she had actually talked to another person, kind of thing, because she was really bad on dialogue parts. Um, no, but the overall story, I love Twilight. It was a fun read. I can remember looking forward to those reads. Okay, so in the two, I'm more a Hunger Games fan. Hunger Games, I got no complaint. Hunger Games is fantastic all the way through. I could say the only thing is I haven't read the prequel series for some reason. I've been having an issue since it dropped on getting the Ballad of Songs and Snakebirds, and she's about to drop another book. I have not read that one, and I've seen parts of that movie. Um, I really enjoyed the book, the first, the main Hunger Games books and the movies. No, but I don't really have knowledge on the prequel.
I'll admit I haven't read. I've watched some of the movies with her, but yeah,
I'll tell
yeah,
you what's one of the coolest things about Hunger Games is the books to the movies are not a difference. They're just different views. When you read Hunger Games, the books, they're all in Kat's first person perspective. When you watch the movie, you're in a third person perspective and you're following her as a viewer. I think they did that fantastic because they play, it gives like, for instance, it gives the moviegoer that's never read the book, and if they wanted to read the book, it gives it a different angle kind of thing, because even though some of the scenes in the movies are shot a little different, it's just because different angles and stuff like that. I thought it was a great perspective on how they did the difference between the movie and the book.
my wife said Tony liked Breaking Dawn. That was it. Uh, she, she's talking about that particular scene at the end where everybody's killing everybody.
I
But
want to
no,
say,
all joking aside, though, it was a really great scene. And that guy, Michael Sheen, played Arrow, whatever his name.
mhm, mhm,
I
the
love
one that got
Michael
his
Sheen.
head. Here you
I
go.
love Michael Sheen. I mean,
I do too. Okay, first and foremost, I like a lot of the actors. I am a huge Patterson fan to this day. Now okay, both him and Kristen Stewart, and I did not like. I could say during those films, she was the actress I did not like. Like for me, he had better performances than she did, and I can see why guys had the appeal on her. She was my issue with the movie. Like, she was just kind of bland and there kind of thing. And I'm not saying that she's a bad actress, but they were both young at that time. I mean, extremely young, and they were both in it with like young directors, and So I want to say there's like a bunch of different. I mean, but Patterson moving forward, hell no. I just recently watched The Lighthouse with him and William Dafoe. It's a fantastic movie. Like, and I already love him as Batman kind of thing.
I was gonna say, as far as Twilight goes, my favorite character was Alice. I loved Alice,
I want to say,
and I can't think. There's another one I can't think of her name, but the blonde that was with him, Rosalie, Rosalind, something like that.
I actually liked all his family. I thought his family was way more interesting than he was. That's one of the biggest issues of the book, because you're like you meet him, and he seems cool because he's the sparkly vampire, and she's all addicted to him and stuff. Okay, and then we meet his badass family, and it's like, why is she into this one? Oh, it's because they're already taken. I get it now. No, like the whole bit. Okay, so to me, there was just cool moments throughout all the movies. You know, it was like the introduction of the werewolves, like, you know, and the way the movie did the werewolves was kind of cool because they were bigger versions of werewolves than most people were used to. You know, normally when they went back down to wolf size, they were like wolf. No, in this movie they were like gigantic wolves, which was you know, that there were things for me that weren't overall like bad. I do not put them in any bad movie column. Like they're not next to Catwoman or Dragon Ball Z Evolution or like.
Yeah,
No, I mean, I want to say that Twilight to begin with is they're not the greatest of books, and I'm sorry to your wife if she's like a super Twilight fan. Okay, first off, they're teenager novelizations. They're not even full adult books. They're now a credit to her. They're full on like adult size. They're huge books, but okay, uh, now in the realm that they are, you know, they're perfect. I don't, but they're not. You know, I mean, it's not like you can compare Twilight to Bram Stoker's Dracula. You know, or you know, Anne Rice's interview with they're just, you know, one's written for teenagers and the other is written for like a very like mature adult audience kind of thing.
oh yeah,
Because I'm a huge Anne Rice fan. Yeah, I just love vampires in general. So I've touched base with everything that's popped up. You're talking about, I mean, most people have never heard of like the vampire's assistant, Cirque du Lycée. I've read a lot of those. Like, and that movie was great, and people have never seen that movie. I had read before they made the movie, the Abraham Lincoln Vampire. You know, I mean, because it was vampire related, and I don't know, I just love vampire.
I'm trying to find it, but a long time ago, my wife found a set of books, and it was a vampire set, and they took place after Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. And I'm trying to see if I can find it, but
So there's
yeah, here.
been, I want to say it's a collection, like it's a whole bunch of different authors that wrote that book, and there's like short stories. Is that
Well, no, this one, these were written by a writer by the name of Gene Calligris, and it was called the hold on. The first book was called Covenant of the Vampire, the Diaries of the Family Dracul series,
yep?
and it talks a little bit about it expands on the lore of Dracula and his family,
Yeah,
and they were pretty good.
I read that. I mean, I don't know if I've read everything vampire
No,
related,
I know I
but
have.
I've read quite a bit, like as far as in that realm. And, just because I'm already a horror reader, but like I'm not gonna say I've read everything horror, especially nowadays. Like I think in it, like every medium nowadays, there's just a flux of stuff. Like
See,
I'm,
I was gonna say my wife's corrected me. She said they were prequels to Dracula. Okay, I've forgotten
nah,
about it. I've forgotten about them. I have to look them up.
but I want to say lately, there's just been a flux of like whatever you can like music that's like trying to keep track of like, you know, who's big out there. I mean, technically, we don't even have the radio. The radio's only, you know, playing certain stuff. But like,
Yeah.
you know, if you're not like I don't even know how like you would pay attention to like everything that's going on in just music or everything that's going on in movies. You're talking about it in a week right now. In a week, you might think there's only dropping these big like Hollywood blockbuster movies that you see like, but that's not the only movies that are dropping. Generally, it's like a good 20 to 30 movies American side that are dropping, but then there's like international movies. There's, and I want to say like, you know, Japan's Hollywood and China's Hollywood drops stuff, and Korea drops stuff just as much as we do, if not more, kind of thing.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and switch gears since we've already been an hour, and I'm going to show off some books that I got for New Comic Book Day. Unless you got something you want to show off.
Nah.
Okay, I said New Comic Book Day, but actually, I showed off my New Comic Book Day stuff on Wednesday. This is a stack of books going back to talking about Destry and his $2 sale in his long boxes.
Oh yeah, at the shop. Yeah, yeah. So you went spawn crazy.
I racked up. None of these are in the giveaway except for one. And when I get to it, I'll point to it because y'all's gonna laugh. But these are some pretty cool books that I picked up for my collection. And the first few, working on my Batman run.
So Kimberly, you know who to blame. It's that toy shop that just opened up. Remember, and he had the address in the beginning. If you need to go get mad at them,
I got Batman 443.
I like it.
445.
I like it. It's got Batman on it.
We got 446.
Oop, I like it. It's got Batman on it.
Oh, these are, you'll love all these. 447.
Yep. Yeah, I do like that. It's got an Adam West thing.
448.
Yeah, I know that one.
And the last Batman book is 449. Now, the story with these is I need issues 412 to 416 and 444, and I'll have a complete run of Batman from 401 to 525. So that'd be pretty cool.
Look, they got Greg
okay,
too.
My wife said when the last book ends, that's the start of Dracula.
Okay.
And then he said, I left with some books from Destry today as well. All right. Now, that I picked those up on Wednesday. I went back yesterday and picked up some more. I got Cap 200. Then I got some of the stuff from Daredevil Born Again. I got 226. I got 230. I got 232, the first appearance of Nuke.
That's cool.
And then I got 233. Now, as Mike said, as I was going through the boxes, I came to Spawn. And the rest of this is Spawn. So if Durs is watching, he's going to be happy. I picked up the Spawn Bible.
Yeah, that's cool. I've only seen that a couple times.
I picked up issue 3.
Hey. Newsstand too.
Here we go. I picked up issue 9.
Oh, Angela. Okay.
And issue 9.
Okay.
And issue 9.
Okay.
So I have 7 copies now. Actually, I'm going to have 6 because one of these will be in the giveaway. I got issue 11.
Yeah, that's good. That was a good one.
Issue 12.
Yeah. Shit, that's right. That's right where it's getting good right there.
Yeah. Issue 13. I already had 14. Got issue 15. I'm going to point this one out. I got issue 16, and I didn't know this until I looked it up in the CLZ app. This is the first Al Milgrom on Spawn. No, the first Greg Capullo on Spawn.
I was about to say, not Al Milgrom.
I got that wrong. Greg Capullo. 18. 19. 20.
20.
Oh, yeah, it's going up. 21. 22.
Love that cover.
23. 24. 25. Now we skip ahead for the last two. I got issue 50
Okay.
and I got issue 76. And
All
there was,
right.
like I said, that man, he had a whole bunch of more in there, and that's what I picked up from there. Um, I actually left 5 copies of Spawn #9 in the box, so I mean, you know, so
You were generous. I got you.
yeah, I didn't take them all, although I could have, and I took every
Yeah.
one of those spawns out of the bag, and those damn things were perfect.
Now you
So
do know. Now you got one of the harder ones. That's Angela. You got a couple of them. I saw that, but you do know the harder, the really hard ones are the hundreds, 100 and plus, right?
yeah, I know. Well, this is one of those things where I said I'm not trying to collect the whole run, but if I run into a deal like that, I'll pick up some spawn. I mean,
I've had like outside of like #1 because I currently have that, but it's been like in my collection and out of my collection. But like before, I had one through like I want to say 80 something because I've read 1 through 100.
and see, I need issue 5, 26, and 27. I'll have the first 30 issues in single format. Now I've been collecting the compendiums.
Mhm.
I got volume 4 on its way, and that's the first 200 issues in compendium format.
Yeah,
So, I mean, so technically, I'm gonna try to get all the compendiums because they got 6 compendiums, which takes you all the way up to issue 300, and that'd be cool. And I'm gonna show this too. We know I love Drist. I picked that up Wednesday,
yeah, that's cool.
so that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna try to set up this giveaway tool, and we're gonna do a giveaway real quick. Let's see. Share screen. Is that it? Yeah.
This I can't actually help you on. I don't. I have no knowledge on how to do this because I don't
I'm
have a
go-
PC.
I'm gonna try it.
It looks
Uh,
right so far. Hashtag Drist.
well, it's not really Drist related, so
She likes saying it.
we're gonna say ITC 50. Put that in the comments, and I will show y'all. Well, I guess I should have did this first. I don't know how I can do this now, but maybe that'll come back. This is what you're going to win in the giveaway. Like I said, Spawn issue #9. I've got this nice, I believe this is Frank Cho, glow in the dark cover of Harley Quinn 30th anniversary special, still in the bag.
It is Frank.
And this is one of the Dune comics. I'm gonna probably butcher this, but I don't know who did the variant. Dune House Atreides issue #12.
Oh, that's cool.
And this is I don't know what issue it is or who did the cover, but this is a Mighty Morphin comic. Do that in there.
Shit.
We got
That boy's busy.
Absolute Batman #1 third print.
Ooh.
I wasn't too crazy about it. Okay. I'll put it this way: it was decent, but not enough to put me all in to keep collecting it. Especially since I've got the DC app and I can read them in 30 days.
Yeah.
Surprising enough, as much as I love this series, I got the volume 1 trade, so I'm gonna get rid of my single issues. But I got the first 4 issues of Falling in Love on the Path to Hell.
Ooh, I love that book.
That's a great. I just wanted to decide to just pick these up in trade.
I could say that's a read that comes with some warnings. You know, it's got some rough patches, especially for a man. It's got some rough patches.
And Spawn, and the last one is Spawn 358. Now, I will say, if anybody international wins it, I'll have to get with me because on the shipping, because I'd love to send it to y'all. Maybe we can work something out. Because I ain't got a lot of money, so maybe we can get this thing to work, and we'll see how it goes. But I want to do some kind of giveaway, you know. And now, how do I put it back to where I show?
I think it's super cool and super nice. I don't know.
There we go. I'm just going to do it this way. The heck with it. So y'all put that in there, and
Yeah, I think it's generating. It said like 5.
well, I've got. I see a few in the comments. So yeah, there's like how many people watching? There's only 7 people watching. So not counting me, you got a 1 in 6 chance of winning. So hey,
It could come right back to you if Kimberly wins it.
well, if my wife or mom wins it, I'm picking somebody else.
Well, no, we could see their reaction live on camera. You could give it to.
My wife's not going to go live on camera,
I'm playing. I'm playing.
but how you doing, Canadian survivalist? Let's see if I can. I'm gonna try to figure out
Cheers.
how to. There it is. That's how we do it.
You getting it?
I'm figuring it out. We'll give that a few more minutes. We'll do that before we get out of here. So, Mike, what you got coming up? Because I know we got something coming up later on tonight.
Yeah, in about 40 minutes, we got our book club thing, or maybe it's 50 minutes, something like that. But we got our book club coming up. We got Dragonlands, Dragons of Winter Night, Part 3. It looks like it's just going to be me, you, and Trev tonight because we're missing a few people. But yeah, I'm super excited. I'm ready to go. I was telling you backstage that I'm hesitant about this episode because we're missing 2 of our members, but at the same time, I want to move forward past this book. I want to get to the next book because I'm really enjoying the story, and I want to get to the. We're gonna see how it goes.
All right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm really looking forward to 3. So, what else you got besides tonight?
Me and Trev on Sunday nights, and then next week, talking about Peter Straub. On my other book club, we're doing Stephen King, and we're talking about Stephen King and Peter Straub's book, The Talisman. We just got some huge news this past week from Stephen King. Stephen King announced that he's finally giving us the 3rd book in the Talisman series because we already have part 1 and 2. We have The Talisman and Black House, and sadly, Peter Straub passed away. I want to say in like 2018, 19, somewhere in there. So we didn't know if we were going to get the 3rd book, but they just announced that we're getting the 3rd book. And as soon as Stranger Things gets finished, that's the next project that the Duffer Brothers are working on is the Talisman, the live action version.
Ooh.
So, how appropriate, talk about the book. Especially if you do not know about Stephen King's The Talisman. It is fantastic. It's one of my favorites, but it is another quest style book. It just follows a boy on this quest to find the talisman to save his mother.
Okay. Well, for me, I've got I'll do a mail call unboxing from Rups Comics on Monday. Next Friday will be the next episode of Tony's Comic Spotlight for Avengers issue 6, which is the first appearance of Baron Heinrich Zemo and the Masters of Evil. We'll be back here next Saturday for another episode of Into the Comiverse, and then just taking it a little bit at a time. So that's pretty much. Oh, and like you said, in less than an hour, I'll be with you on the Quest through Korean.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and roll this thing, and we're going to see who won. I will ask that whoever wins, please give me 1 to 2 weeks to mail it because I don't get paid till next Friday. So I'm planning on shipping it next Friday, and then we'll see who wins this thing. Uh-oh. And I screwed something up.
It won't let you click on it?
No, it won't let me click on it.
Yeah, maybe try stop sharing and reshare.
Will it
It should still keep the tally, I guess.
I hope so. Yeah, we did. All right, here we go. And the winner is Las Cruces.
Hell yeah. Actually, I haven't seen
Dude,
Las Cruces win in a
needs to
minute.
buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, he used to win all the time. I haven't seen him win so much. So
Las Cruces.
It's awesome.
So once you win my stack of books for tonight, just send me your address on Instagram. Message me on Instagram, and like I said, I will get you the books out. I will ship them Friday. I will message you all that cool stuff, the tracking and all that cool stuff. And congratulations. I want to take a minute to thank everybody for watching the show. Mike, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I'll see you in about another less than an hour, 45 minutes. I want to thank everybody for hanging out in the chat. Y'all are awesome. And, commenting with your comments and everything. I want to thank everybody watching the replay. And until next time, y'all, we will see you next time. And everyone be safe, take care, God bless. And most of all, just keep reading.
Yep. Don't forget to like and comment.
Exactly.
We'll see y'all next time. Thank you.
Well, dudes, I'd say that's pretty much a wrap. Yep. Cowabunga?
Cowabunga.
Yeah.
Yeah.